Well, I'm so excited to be able to be here. Very honored that Sabrina Johannes, the CEO of Deployed Love, asked me to moderate a conversation with one of the women I admire most in the world, and it's Scarlett Lewis, and we'll hear why. These two women, two CEOs, Sabrina and Scarlett, the double S women, they are magnificent. And one of the reasons why they're magnificent is because they want people to flourish. And that's rare in this world. We want to flourish, we can flourish, but having people who will lead and organize the charge so that we can flourish is just it's one of the purposes of my life. And so to get to meet these women has just been an honor. I'm going to ask Sabrina, as the CEO of Deployed Love, with so many Deployed Love people here today. I'm so excited about seeing Kim, Ashley, Lindsay, Nicole, Ashley, and others. This is exciting for us to come together and to meet your team. What would you, Sabrina, like us to get out of this evening with Scarlett?
Yeah, I'm really excited you guys came, and I know that there's a couple in here that are with Scarlett as well, so it's nice to see you guys here. I'm just really, really excited that the message that Scarlett has for us and the whole choosing love movement is great for Deployed Love. And we both, both have love in our title, and that's kind of what it is. We want to be able to share the love with the community, and also help our kids and our families go through harder times, like deployments, for instance. In choosing ways to do that in a little bit more of a loving and compassionate way. So I hope that you guys get a lot of information from this. I know when I met Scarlett, gosh, it's been already almost a month or so ago, time's flown, her story really moved me. So I'm really excited to hear it again and talk to you guys.
Thank you, Sabrina. I've been really impressed with the empowerment message that Deployed Love has. So as many people I can talk to about Deployed Love, I tell them, I just said, there is this amazing group and we really need to watch them. So I'm one of your cheerleaders, but because of the idea of empowerment is so critical to you, I'm excited that we can talk to Scarlett, who has helped herself, her family, me, and so many others learn how to take our power back once we give it away. She helps us develop superpowers, and really we change ourselves first, and then we help change our community and the world. And it's just an exciting world to be in. However, it started in a really very difficult manner. You see Scarlett with us tonight. You see behind her pictures of this wonderful, vibrant young man named Jesse. And Jesse died, unfortunately, at 6 years old as a soldier. He was a little boy who loved the Army. And I know that many people, many branches of so we say military, but he had an Army helmet. It was a little plastic Army helmet, and he loved it. He drilled himself around his yard all the time, pretending that he was going to be in the Army. And then one day, a fateful day, in December 2012, a shooter came in, and Jesse was ready. Jesse was the warrior who stood in front of the shooter. And because of his military training, he knew what to do. He said, I'm going to save others, and that is my purpose. I'll let Scarlett tell a little bit more about the story. But Jesse's legacy not only impacts so many people worldwide, the former President Trump, put him up for a Medal of Freedom because of what he did. But he also had this deep love of the military. And so when I met Scarlett and she told me Jesse's story, I said, oh my gosh, we've got to get you with military families, because I think it would just be a wonderful testament to Jesse. I think that's what he would have wanted. So Scarlett, can you tell us a little bit more about Jesse and the military? We're talking with people who live the military. They sacrifice so much for our country, so much for each other, for their families. And tell us a little bit about Jesse and his wonderful love of the military.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say to everybody how honored I am to be here, and thank you for your sacrifice. I say that anytime I see anybody in uniform, and yes, I have no doubt that Jesse would have enlisted. He loved his favorite things were little military men. And I'm pretty sure that he planted these in the yard because they're still coming up. And yellow ducks. We call this the dichotomy of his personality. So he carried around a little Spider-Man lunchbox, half with military men that he was always playing with and half with yellow ducks. So when we thought about what our logo was going to be, and we knew that we were going to start working in schools, we thought, military men, yellow ducks. The yellow ducks won out only because we were starting work in schools. But I have military men all over my house. And in fact, I'm just going to get up and show you. I'm wearing, I always have some sort of camo on. So yeah, he actually was very dedicated, and he would pretend like he was patrolling around the farm. He would walk the perimeter. He would stand with a stick, held as a gun on the inside of our gate and wait for my horseback riding students to come. And so that was absolutely. In fact, for 5 years, I had a retired 3-star Marine Lieutenant General who was my chairman of the board. And he knew Jesse's love for the military as well. So it's always been my dream to serve the military with Choose Love in some way. I have spoken on different bases. And so I'm just really honored to be here with you all tonight.
Scarlett, that's so wonderful. When I think about Jesse with his little plastic army helmet,
he was buried with that army helmet. He wore it for my friend had given him this big set of military figurines, and it came with an army helmet. He wore that helmet every single day for the last 6 months of his life. He slept in the helmet. I would peel it off his sweaty little head when he went to school, but he would come back on and come back home and put it on. So we ended up burying him with it on his head.
This is profoundly painful in some ways. You don't look as if a person had been through a lot of pain, but you have a lot of reason for grievance. There is, and people on this call, even though your grievances may not be like Scarlett's grievance of losing a child to a shooter, a child who loved the military, who loved to serve, who cared and saved 11 children in his own death. So Scarlett, you had a grievance, and you had a choice. Why didn't you just double down on your grievance?
It was interesting. I always practice being present with my boys, present in the moment. And that's really the best way to live your life with the fewest regrets, by the way, is being present with the ones that you love, looking in their eyes, not on your phones, but literally sitting across the table from them. And so I'd always practice being present. And even that day when I was called from work to go home, to go back and be reunited with our kids after the school shooting, of course, I was never reunited with Jesse. And I was trying to be present. I wanted to be present even then, because it's only in the present moment that you can thoughtfully respond to what's happening around you and take your personal power back. So I tried to be present even in the days after, and I watched other people's responses, and I saw the anger, and I saw the blame, I saw the finger pointing. And I thought about that. And I saw the polarization, by the way, that I really think, a lot of we're really polarized now, but a lot of that started with the guns, pro-gun, anti-gun after Sandy Hook. And I saw the polarization. I saw so many people blaming the guns during that. And of course, Adam Lanza and his mother. But I thought, you know what? That's just too easy. Because if it really was all Adam Lanza and his mother's fault, then it would never have happened before, and it would never happen again. But of course, we'd had school shootings before. And of course, as you all know, school shootings were becoming our new normal. So that couldn't have been all of Adam Lanza and his mom's fault. And, everybody was blaming guns, but I know other parts of the world where they don't have access to the guns. In the UK, they use knives. I mean, we're gonna get our emotions out, and we're gonna use something. If we want to hurt somebody, we're going to do that. And so I thought, I started looking at the ways that we were dealing with the dysfunction in our schools. So I started looking at anti-bullying programs, suicide prevention programs, substance abuse awareness programs, and I really analyzed their effectiveness. And some of them may be effective, maybe because there's a great teacher or something, but with all of the statistics that are going on and these issues escalating exponentially, especially now during COVID, clearly what we're doing wasn't working. And I realized that what we were doing was really based on how we're wired to think. Even after the tragedy, we are wired as human beings to focus on the negative. That's what we do. We have this survival instinct. And so like cavemen focused on a saber-toothed tiger, we focus on negativity. We focus on the problem. And that's what these programs did. And so what happens when you focus on something, it grows. And I realized that what we hadn't been doing was focusing on the cause of those issues, the cause of the suffering, because it's only when you focus on the cause of that suffering that you can be talking about a solution. And so I decided there were some programs, but they weren't all inclusive. And if you had one, you had to have like 3 others, and they were very expensive. And I thought, you know what? These are essential life skills that I don't have as an adult, that my life would be better if I did have them, like how to have healthy relationships, how to manage your emotions, how to make responsible decisions. And here's probably the most important one: how to learn from, grow through, and be strengthened by difficulties that we face in our lives. Because we're going to be facing them. We know that our kids are going to be facing a myriad of difficulties, and they need to learn how to be present, how to face them with courage, and how to grow through them, not resist and avoid them, not numb themselves, but literally grow through them. And so I didn't see anything out there that was doing that. So I decided to create it. And I used a lot of experts that volunteered. And thankfully, it was a time when people bought into what I was trying to do. And I had a lot of different people come in and create this really all-inclusive lifespan program that teaches just that.
It's incredible what you were able to do when so many people have what happened to you. It would have been okay for you to say, look, I'm out of this. I've got total, something horrible happened, and I'm just going to take a knee and not change the world, not change the grievance, which grows into an action, which grows into violence. And the Department of Homeland Security has pointed to Scarlett Lewis's Choose Love movement as the missing piece of helping people in all of society, not just at schools, but a number of our military families homeschool. And for many reasons. Sometimes it's because the schools are really violent and you don't want to send your child there. Other times it's because of the nature of military moves. And so this is a program that's so simple that helps you address grievances. And we think, hey, a kid can't address their own grievances. Can a kid address their own grievances, Scarlett? How young are kids who use this program? And what is the program that you teach them?
Yeah, absolutely. They can. And that's kind of the ultimate thing, right? That we want the kids to figure out their own issues themselves, to be self-reliant and self-sufficient, to have that kind of self-awareness that they can solve problems, because you're not always going to be there to solve them for them. And that's ultimately what education is, I believe. And so our program is lifespan. We start prenatally because it's a really important time, obviously, for brain development. And who knew that as a mother, your reaction to your environment has the ability to either negatively or positively impact your baby's forming brain. So in other words, if you are in a stressful environment and you react in an anxious way, the cortisol that's released crosses the blood-brain barrier and can negatively impact a baby's forming brain. It can make a smaller prefrontal cortex. So we have this prenatal program. It's a lot about awareness and give some breathing exercises, but I wish I'd known, And then we have an infant toddler program, which is, I was a single working mom, so dropped both of my boys off at 6-week-old at private and public daycares. And I'm sure that I know that the people that were running them were beautiful people and they loved the kids, but I know also that they didn't understand the importance of that time in a baby's brain development. And there are things that you can do, and they're not difficult, but you need to have awareness and you need to know what they are. And then we have pre-K through 12th grade, and we have lots of homeschoolers using our programming. In fact, we're popular with homeschoolers. And then we have a program for the home. The original program that I created the prenatal program first, and then I went into pre-K through 12th grade. And I remember after having launched that, I went to a trauma conference, and I learned there that the majority of the trauma that comes into schools, and by the way, this has just been exploding. 25 years ago, there was a study called the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Experiences. It was groundbreaking research on childhood trauma. 25 years ago, that study found that 1 in 5 kids was coming to school having experienced a traumatic event. Going into COVID, that number was between 35 and 50%. And now during COVID, I've heard upwards of 90%. And of course, we know now what happens to a child's brain when they have some amount of trauma. The prefrontal cortex, where logic and reasoning is cut off. And because, if you understand how the brain filters information, it filters it through a trauma filter first, through the base of the brain. This is the last part, but this is the part that you need to sit in your seat and learn. So really important to understand that. And there's a lot of trauma, and a fair amount of trauma comes from the home. And so I literally actually at that point said, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. I shouldn't have started with schools. I should have started at the home, because I was a parent. I didn't know these essential life skills. We're not born with them. By the way, we have to learn them. And if we didn't learn them from our parents, you can't give what you don't have, and you didn't learn them, or they weren't reinforced in schools, then you get to be an adult and you don't have these essential life skills, or social and emotional intelligence. And I was there, by the way. I was 44 years old and I did not have them. And I'm living proof that you can learn them at any age. Really important though. So we have this home program that mirrors what is being taught in the school. It's the same languaging. And then we also have a community program, because I would be launching this. This program is in over 10,000 schools in every state in the country and 112 countries, because it focuses on love. And love is what connects us all as human beings. We all have a want and need to love and be loved. They're even saying now Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which start with food and water, and then it kind of goes up to relationships. They're saying now that love is right here at the very base. We need love to survive and even to thrive. In fact, Charles Darwin, that he's the famous evolutionist, and he's attributed to the quote survival of the fittest. But it's pretty interesting that Charles Darwin never said that. He actually didn't conclude that at all in his research. In The Descent of Man, he concluded actually in his research that it would be survival of the most sympathetic that would live to survive and thrive. And by sympathetic, he meant altruistic, generous, and compassionate. And that's the basis upon which we created this program. Whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? You mean you don't have to elbow people and push them down to rise to the top? It's not competition. No, because if you think about how you got to where you are, somebody gave you a hand and helped you out. We need to help one another. That's what you've created, Sabrina, in Deployed Love. It is helping one another. And those are the communities that we need to reestablish and to create that fostering of love. And by the way, that is a choice. It's a choice when you have some skills and tools. So we also have a community program, and now we have communities across the country that are having Choose Love days. And that's because I would be launching these programs in districts, and I'd have the chief of police and the PTA president and the Chamber of Commerce and the mayor and different other public heads. And they would be saying, well, how can we choose love? How can we love and support this program that's going into our schools and our homes? And so we created this community program, and that's where everybody can get on board. And it's really important that we're all on the same page with this, that we're all loving and supporting one another. We have states now. New Hampshire is a great model for this. I mean, they have Choose Love in their Department of Health and Human Services. They have it in their DCYF. They have it. It's mandatory for foster care parents. It's even in their prison system and in their AG's office. This is because, I mean, we're all connected by the want and need to love and be loved. And when we don't feel love, we don't feel good. And it's a choice if you have some education and awareness around it.
Scarlett, as I recall, the First Lady of New Hampshire just invited all First Ladies and all first spouses, to come together for a nationwide conference on what they're finding out in New Hampshire. And New Hampshire is a live free or die state. That's their motto. It's not love. And so it's been very countercultural, but very effective. They've had such good results during this pandemic because they chose love. Now, can you tell us about what it means to choose love? What are those steps? And I want everybody to know that this morning, like somebody rubbed me the wrong way, and I said, stop, Allegra, you're going to choose love. And I've known Choose Love. I helped start a division of Choose Love. I love this. And it doesn't take us out of the human condition. We all get people who, chap us, and we end up, and you have to just every time make this choice. So what can you describe the choice you make when you choose love? What do you actually do? And it's so simple. I just want to say that 4-year-olds do it, 6-year-olds do it. At a New Hampshire Board of Education meeting, they said the reason why we're doing it is because kids are solving their own problems by just going through the formula. So what formula is it?
Yes. Yeah. So the formula is actually behind me, and it actually came from a message that Jesse left on our kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. Now, remember, he was 6 years old. The words were phonetically spelled because he was just learning to write in first grade. But I couldn't believe it. And I saw those and I knew instantly that if the shooter, and in our case, that was a former student whose mother had taught at the school, if he had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, that the tragedy would never have happened. It was so simple, but of course, simple isn't always easy. And so I just wanted to give you the origin of where this formula came from. It turns out that, you know, we had doctoral professors studying those three words, and they are in the definition of compassion across all cultures. So when you break down the meaning of each of the words, they comprise a powerful and profound formula for choosing love. This formula can lead you to taking your personal power back, despite what's going on, and being able to thoughtfully respond with love in any situation, circumstance, or interaction. So I will walk you through the formula. Now, the first character value, there are 4 character values, that's it. And everything else that we teach falls underneath these 4 character values. But the first one is courage. And courage is, of course, the most important character value because everything starts with courage. And courage, science says, and this is all backed by, in most cases, decades of research, but research shows that courage is like a muscle and that we can learn it and then we can practice it to strengthen it. And of course, I can't talk about courage without talking about Jesse's courage. He, as Allegra said earlier, he stood in front of the shooter and his brave action saved multiple of his classmates' lives. But here's the thing, and we share that story age appropriately because we all have the capacity for Jesse's courage, each and every one of us. And a lot of times when we think about courage, we think about these grandiose acts of courage, but in reality, we practice courage every single day, all day long. Sometimes it starts when we get out of bed and we put our best foot forward. We practice courage when we do the right thing, when we tell the truth, when we are our authentic selves, when we're vulnerable, when we face our fear and discomfort instead of resisting and avoiding it or even numbing ourselves. All of this is courage. And there are different ways of teaching courage and then practicing courage. There's the brave breath, there's the brave pose. And as Allegra said, we have so many stories of little kids actually practicing their courage and then facing their bullies, like literally on the playground, and stopping that bullying behavior themselves. So it's pretty exciting. And of course, you need courage to practice the rest of the formula. So nurturing in Jesse's message means loving kindness and gratitude. Gratitude is so vitally important that we practice that every day. And here's kind of a little thing that we teach. We call it the great mind shifter, but we all have, all of us adults, everybody on here has tens of thousands of thoughts every single day. And by the way, the majority of those thoughts are negative. Between 70 to 80% of your thoughts are negative and repetitive. So 95 and over % of your thoughts every single day are repetitive. And you say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? Why is that? Well, that's going back to what we were talking about before, our negative bias. The cavemen were scanning for a saber-toothed tiger, and it was those cavemen that saw the saber-toothed tiger and ran. They were the ones that were going to live to pass down their genes. Well, we don't have saber-toothed tigers, but we do focus on negativity in our lives. If you think about it, at the end of the day, when you're kicking back, what are you thinking about? What are you sharing with your, if you can share with your spouse or with your friends? What are you sharing? Are you sharing your challenges of the day or your conflicts? Or are you sharing, what you did right? That's just a little example. Gratitude is the great mind shifter. You can only focus on one thought at a time. Yes, the majority of our thoughts are negative and repetitive, but you can only focus on one at a time. So that means you're either focusing on a lower energy, angry, resentful thought, or a grateful thought. So when you're ready to move out of that lower energy, you can think of something that you're grateful for. And there's always something to be grateful for. And that can help shift your thought. Of course, this takes courage when things aren't going your way to focus on gratitude. But it is gratitude that leads to happiness and not the other way around. So then when we go back to Jesse's message, nurturing healing literally means forgiveness. Forgiveness is probably the most important part of my healing journey. My ability to forgive the shooter. By the way, people are amazed. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you forgave the man who murdered your son. But for me, because I know the science behind the benefits of forgiveness for the forgiver, that would be me. I wouldn't do anything but, because it's the only way to take my personal power back. Otherwise, I would be giving the man who murdered my son power over my thoughts that impact how I feel, that then impact how I show up in my relationships and my behavior. And I did not want to be another victim. I wanted to be in control. Forgiveness is what gave me that control. And I called it a set of scissors and a choice. I made the choice. I cut the cord that attached me to pain. And it was really the best idea. It was the best thing that I could have done because it empowered me. And, a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to forgive that person because they don't deserve it. They don't care, or they don't know that they hurt me. And I'm not going to give them that gift, not realizing that when you learn about forgiveness, that the gift is for yourself. And by the way, there are decades of research behind forgiveness and the benefits. And one of the big ones is healthy relationships. Healthy relationships have to have an element of forgiveness. And Harvard University is actually doing the longest ever study on human life. When they were 75 years into that study, studying humans from when they were babies all the way to 75 years, they found the secret to happiness. And the secret to happiness they found was healthy relationships and meaningful connections. How do we get those? Well, through forgiveness. One of the top benefits, scientifically proven benefits of forgiveness, is healthy relationships. So you kind of see how this all comes together. And then, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to ask a question. Was this one and done? Did you just say, I'm going to cut the cord to my pain, and then I'm never going to think about this again? It's going to be fine. Tell us just a little bit about your forgiveness journey, because it's really extraordinary and it's very inspiring. In fact, today someone brought up someone I didn't like, and I need to hear this right now, because I'm like, it's reminding me, oh, Allegra, you're giving your power away because you're on their agenda. So please just, what was it, one and done, or what was your journey? Because this is really important for all of us to know that forgiveness is cutting the cord to pain. But do you just cut it one time?
Very good question. And absolutely not. It does start with a choice. And even if you're not 100% there, you can make that choice. But then inevitably, you're going to fall back into anger. And I do fall back into anger. I mean, it'll be the anniversary of the tragedy. It'll be Jesse's birthday that just came and went, my birthday, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, the first day of school when Jesse's bus goes by. I mean, so I think you're getting the idea that forgiveness starts with a choice, and then it becomes a process. And it may be a process that you have to do for the rest of your life. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be my process, something that I'm working on for the rest of my life. But let me tell you something, it is worth it, because in some situations, it's the only way to take your personal power back and not be a victim. A victim is the definition of loss of control, and that doesn't feel good. And I certainly didn't want to lose my control to the shooter. But you're going to have to practice that. And I think that, I get stronger and I can get back up a lot quicker. And, and by the way, that's not to say that I don't struggle with forgiveness with family members. Sometimes those seem to be hard to, because you have an emotional connection and they know you, and then there's hurt involved, and that's tough. But I use my forgiveness skills in that as well. And it's really powerful.
I love, so I came at this as a bit of a reconciliation and forgiveness poet and person, really into that part of it. And Scarlett taught me, Allegra, we have to have courage and gratitude before we get to forgiveness, because you can't just jump in there. We do need to decide that we're going to be people of courage, decide that no matter what, there's something we can be grateful for, so our mind can shift and make forgiveness even a possibility that we can contemplate. And as Scarlett often points out, this is not about accountability. The state holds people accountable. We can hold people accountable. It's not that they aren't accountable for their actions. Absolutely. People have to be accountable for their actions, but we don't have to carry the pain. But Scarlett showed me the reason why she has the formula the way she does is because we build up to forgiveness. So what comes after courage, gratitude? Then we shift our minds, we take our personal power back, and then what happens next?
Yeah. And by the way, thanks for saying that, Allegra. It is neuroscientifically accurate. So you have to have courage to be grateful when things aren't going your way. And then gratitude literally strengthens you neuroscientifically in your brain to help you consider forgiveness. And then the last character is compassion in action. And this is really important for everybody on this call. Compassion in action. Compassion has two components. There is the identification component, like identifying someone in pain or somebody that has a need, and then the action component. And this is why we call it compassion in action, because there is an action component when you actively do something to help ease that need. Here's the incredible thing and the science behind compassion in action. All of, and I say, the nurturing, healing love that you give out, you get back. You are empowered by doing for others. Now, this is different than empathy. And it's been so interesting, especially during COVID. I've been seeing more and more articles talking about compassion burnout. But technically and scientifically, there is no such thing as compassion burnout, but there is empathy burnout. Now, when you put yourself in someone else's shoes and feel their pain, that is empathy. And that lights up the same receptors in your brain as physical pain. That is actually a painful process. And that can lead to burnout and fatigue, because you can only feel somebody else's pain for so long, then you have to turn away. This is what makes compassion in action distinctive, because literally research tells you that when you practice compassion in action, you are strengthened by it. It makes you stronger and more able to do even more. And of course, there's also research from your alma mater, Allegra, Harvard University, which is really interesting. It's called the Hotel Maid Study, but it proves that when you're aware of the benefits of something, just being told the benefits, like on here on the call, that you can experience those benefits exponentially more. And I'll just say really quickly, this researcher took hotel maids and brought them into a research center, gave them a physical, split them into two groups, made one group mindfully aware of the benefits of doing what they did for a living. They said just a 15-minute talk. Hey, did you know that your level of activity is equal to or greater than what the Surgeon General talks about for healthy activity? And when you meet that requirement, you should expect to lose weight, to have better heart health, to have better moods. And they gave a whole list. They told nothing to the control group, sent them both out for 2 weeks to do what they were already doing, brought them back into the research center, gave them all the same physical, and lo and behold, the maids that had been made mindfully aware of the benefits of doing what they were already doing experienced those benefits exponentially more. So I'm just saying that because it's really important that we understand the benefits. First of all, it's like, what's in it for me? I'm kind of busy, and do I have time for this? But also, how do I benefit? And then experiencing those benefits exponentially more is wonderful.
I need some compassion for my muteness. This particular formula has been taught by a number of people in school. So how do you get people to teach this? Do you have an ambassadors program? And do you have any people in the military connecting with this, or is Deployed Love one of the, I know Joint Special Operations Command sent information around, but is this one of the forays into it? So how do you get the news out so that people learn how to teach this, or people can use it themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question, Allegra. A couple of different ways. One is by word of mouth. That is still, I think, the best way to spread a message. You have something, a resource that works, that people need. People are going to talk about it and they're going to spread it around. So, and that's how we've gotten into 10,000 schools. For sure, but we also have an ambassador program. So we have ambassadors. These are volunteers. A lot of times they're teachers. Sometimes they're a concerned citizen or a parent, but they understand the value of what we're doing. And so they volunteer their time to help approach schools. Sometimes it's a grandparent that definitely wants the program in their grandkids' schools, and then they go above and beyond and they show up for community events and they talk about it and they approach schools and they're there to answer questions. We have ambassadors in almost every state. So those are the ways that we've been doing it. I write articles, and I've won some awards, and those have been in the paper. I mean, just little different ways.
I think you were named one of Forbes's 50 top women of impact recently. So I think that a few awards, yes, she has won a few awards. I'd like to ask a question before I open it up to Q&A. One element of military life, is, many military people, there's no one military life, but it's often spiritual. There's a spiritual element when you're dealing with this much stress and this much challenge. And would you be willing to share some of the things that you shared, that Jesse, a 6-year-old, wrote "Nurturing Healing Love" on a chalkboard before he died? And not many 6-year-olds do that. Can you tell us a little bit about the miracles surrounding Jesse's parting, the final message that he left for his brother, so that we can really understand how the beauty of this? Yes, we talk about neuroscience, we talk about our character, but there's a spiritual dimension here that is really lovely, and for those with spiritual lives, may touch them. Could you share just a couple of those stories, and then we'll go to Q&A?
Do you want to put on a pot of coffee? I only say that because there's so many stories from the very beginning, from the message of nurturing, healing, love. I mean, people say, did you walk around saying that? No, I didn't walk around saying nurturing, healing, love. Who does that, right? But I believe that it was a spiritual awareness that he knew that he didn't have much longer, and he wanted to leave a message of inspiration and hope for his family and for the world. And I knew when I saw those 3 words that I was going to be spending the rest of my life spreading that message. And so that's what I'm doing. And there is a huge spiritual foundation. I wrote a book about some of the spiritual aspects of it. It's called, of course, Nurturing, Healing, Love. But I remember having to call out a lot of them because there's so many incredible things that happened spiritually. And one of the stories I will share happened shortly after Jesse's funeral. And remember, this was December 14th. So then we had Christmas. And that was a really hard time for me because I have 3 little brothers. They all have little kids. And of course, they were all in town, and everybody was happy, and I wasn't. And it was hard to see the little boys running around. And I had a 12-year-old son who was looking to me to see how to not only learn from, but grow through and be strengthened by this. So I decided that we would take a trip to Disney. What's the one in Florida? Disneyland.
Oh, Disney World. Yeah.
Disney World. I always get them wrong. Anyway, Disney World, because we'd been there before and I felt safe there. And that was going to be our healing trip. So I wasn't really talking to anybody. I went online, got the tickets that night, left. We were taking off at like 6 a.m. from Westchester Airport, and we had a huge snowstorm that night. Is that, did you want me to share an actual spiritual story? Okay. So this is one of my favorite. And so we woke up that morning, my stepfather's going to drive us to the airport, and there's a blizzard. And this has never happened to me before, but the flight actually canceled, but transferred to LaGuardia. So we turned around and we went to LaGuardia. We got to the airport. Flights canceled multiple times before we got on the plane. I'm telling you this for a reason. So we get on the plane, and all this stuff is happening. We're trying to watch a movie, and everybody's watching a movie, including JT, except for me. Mine's all static, and then it's like playing songs for me, but songs that are, talking about loving you and missing you. And I thought, this is incredible. And JT's trying to help me get my movie on. And finally, he just turned to me, and 12-year-olds don't say things like this. He said, "Do you think this is Jesse kind of like messing around?" And I said, "I don't know, JT, this is incredible." So we landed, and I had a friend text me, "How was the flight?" And I said, "I think that Jesse's spirit was all over this flight. It was, incredible. He was sending me songs, and there was lots of static, and it was just amazing." And she said, "Well, sometimes spirits linger because they want to make sure that you're okay." So I was like, okay, I get it. So I didn't say anything to JT. This was our healing trip. So we got off the plane, we got our luggage, and I said, "Look, JT, can you watch the luggage? Then we're going to go rent our car and we'll go. But I just need to run to the bathroom." So I went into the bathroom, I shut the door, and I just started bawling. And I said a prayer, and I said, "Jesse, if you're lingering to see if JT and I are going to be okay, you're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I want you to be in the arms of Jesus. I don't want you to linger around here. We're going to be fine. If you could be in both places at once, well, then that would be fantastic. But if you can't, I'd prefer you to go be in the arms of Jesus, and we will meet you there. It's not going to be like much time." And I was just, oh my gosh, I literally thought I was sending his spirit away. So I rinsed my face off, didn't say anything to JT. We got in the car, got our luggage in, and we're driving out. I don't know if you've ever been to the Orlando airport, but there's a long driveway, and then you make a right onto the highway. We made a right onto the highway, and there, written in the sky, in skywriting by a plane, was Jesse with a backwards J, the way that he wrote it, Jesse and Jesus together forever. I pulled over, and we're looking out here, and I looked at JT, And JT said, I didn't tell him about my prayer. And JT looked at me and he said, Jesse's with Jesus. And I was like, ah. So I got my phone out. You don't have to believe me. Well, first of all, JT is, like he's a fact checker. And then I took a picture of it. It's in my book. We're just sitting there. The plane is still flying. It flies over in front of my windshield and it starts writing another message. And I go, JT, this is for us. And he says, I know. So it starts writing. And this is the kind of message that you will see in Florida. You plus God, we watched as it wrote this, equals dash, smiley face. And I turned to JT and I said, this is our message that we have to stay close to God to be happy. And he's like, I know. Can we go to Disney World now? But really just incredible. And then a little in advance. So 6 months later, I'll just tell you guys this. My neighbor comes over. She is an incredible Christian. I started going to her church 6 weeks before the tragedy. And that's how I had a pastor to call and a place to have a funeral. You just don't think about those things, but it was all set up for me, right? I called her, so I told her about all of that. And she came over on my birthday 6 months later. And she said, I have a surprise for you. And I said, what is it? And she said, well, I called down to the Orlando airport and I was going to find the pilot that wrote that message for you and tell them that you got the message and that it helped you. People would say, well, have you called down to find out who ordered that message? And I'm like, I don't have to. I know. I had that. Nobody knew about the prayer. Nobody would have known. Like, I know what it is. I don't need to figure that out. Anyway, Roberta calls and she goes, well, I called the Orlando airport. They said there's a little group of skywriters that do the skywriting. And so I talked to them and they said, no one wrote that message. None of our skywriters wrote that message. And I said, well, that's what I thought, Roberta. That's a hard message to write for one thing. And nobody knew when we were going to be landing. Even, nobody knew. The flight was canceled. Anyway, that's one of so many stories and they keep happening. I'm very happy to report.
I am so, I always get teary-eyed when you talk about that story because you are dealing with one of the most important relationships in your life and how you had love came to you. You share a lot of love, but sometimes love comes to us in very unexpected, very crazy ways. And I would really highly recommend the book, Nurturing Healing Love. It's available on Amazon. It's Scarlett's story. And there are so many miracles that come in it. Not that you need miracles to choose love. And you don't even have to have a spiritual life. It is taught in secular organizations because it's supposed to be for all. And however it does lead people to living better lives. So we're going to open it up now for anybody with questions. I see, there's some kudos and affirmations in the chat. Anybody have questions for Scarlett or just want to say thank you for sharing this on an evening after, this week?
Thank you. If you have a question.
Has this program been implemented in any CYS settings? What are CYS? Jessica, can you ask what is CYS?
That stands for Community Youth Services. So it's a program on most installations. So it's kind of like YMCA, just the military version. Gotcha.
Thank you, Ashley. To my knowledge, no. I think that it would be perfect for, thanks very much. It's perfect for any place where you want kids to solve problems rather than adults. It's actually perfect for workplaces as well, at any place where you have conflict. But
yeah, I will say that it has been taught in after school programs, in youth programs, in YMCAs, yes, but not in CYS specifically that I know of.
We'd love to do it at the School Age Center on Fort Drum, and that's in New York, upstate New York. And New York has actually had, the governor of New York a couple years ago put out a resolution calling for Jesse Lewis Choose Love Day in New York, and affirming the path. He didn't go as far as the New Hampshire governor, who then said the entire state is doing this. And by the way, the Department of Homeland Security absolutely loves this program. But we would love, Jessica, if you and the Fort Drum, you at Fort Drum would like to follow up with Scarlett. We will. Scarlett, could you put your email, or the email there we go, scarlett@jesselewischooselove.org, and we can get you in touch with the right people, including Shannon Desilets. And Shannon is, she actually sits in the New Hampshire governor's office. She is a Choose Love person, and the governor said, this program is so important because it teaches people to solve problems themselves and have better lives. We're going to have that person who runs that program sitting so the governor, can see them and make sure that we're implementing Choose Love.
Right. Yeah. And if you're in New York, I'm in Connecticut, so I can drive to you. And
Fort Drum, I think, is by Canada, though, right?
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, yeah. And the great thing about Choose Love and the way that I created it was that you can do it yourself. There's no teacher training required. We do have teacher training. It's online and it's in modules. We have teacher training and professional development that we can give as well, but you don't have to have it. You can do it yourself. So yeah, I would love to speak to you.
And I wanted to kind of hop on and talk that Scarlett, sorry, whoever but Scarlett and I had also talked about using this and bringing it to Deployed Love a little bit more by bringing it onto Deployed Love Academy. And we're going to try to put together something where hopefully your kids can come to the next one, where we will have something that's more interactive, but really kind of focusing on how kids can get through deployments, because we may not see it and we may not hear it, they may not tell us when they're struggling, but kind of helping open that door to communication and how we can help them get through those hard times. Because if it's hard for us, just imagine what it's like for those kids. So.
And it really is a language that you can share with your kids, and it's another level of communication. And, I encourage all of you to go on the website and take a look at the home program. So the home program is the same language that they teach in school, so everybody can be on the same page. But we've got some great resources. It's no cost, by the way. So you can download calendars, and it has little things that you can practice. It's really important to know that all of this is a practice. It's not enough to just say, and you might be thinking, well, I know this stuff that she's talking about, but it's not enough to just know it. You have to practice it. And then life is this beautiful thing that it gives us lots of opportunities and different scenarios that we get to practice thoughtfully responding with love and taking our personal power back. And so this gives you a way to do that.
One thing that I'll ask, I don't know if Deployed Love wants to tackle this or not, but I'm on Twitter a lot, in the military Twitter world, just seeing what people are talking about. And I was there with some people who had been in Syria, and it was very painful when the pullback came from Syria, and now the pullback from Afghanistan. It has many different facets to it. Many people are like, why were we there? And other people are like, what's it all about? How are we going to narrate what happened? And my dad was a Vietnam vet, and they failed to narrate that well. And there was a lot of problems that came out of it because Vietnam vets felt they had grievance, they weren't treated well, and they felt angry about it. And I don't want that to happen to our Afghan vets. I saw it happen with the Kurds, and twice, as you did. But if there is some way to bring this into just how do we think about what it means to leave a theater of war, and what does that mean? I would hope that perhaps even the service members could find a better narrative rather than one that my dad had with Vietnam.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you look at the wounded warriors and the ones that come out of it with, their life has changed entirely from how this has been. and just the courage and the forgiveness of being able to move on. I think you see some of them do some amazing things. You know, they come back and they get prosthetics and they move on and they're able to forgive and just start their life up. But I think bringing this message even to like through the VA hospitals and just trying to work with the veterans that have had, you know, they're going to be miserable for the rest of their life because of it, or they can choose, you know, to choose love and enjoy their life again. So
I think that one of the stories that I was reading in Sebastian Junger's Tribe, he said, "Oh, come on, we love the misery. We love to, you know, the more miserable, the better." And I was like, oh, you know, maybe you can say that the more miserable, the better, to help you remember, oh, I survived something so bad. But that really is tying you to something that was pretty miserable, as opposed to tying you to your future life. The poet said, grow old along with me, the best is yet to be. And what if we were thinking in those terms? What is the best that's meant to be? Maybe it wasn't behind us. Maybe it's ahead of us, even though our life is very different than the way it was. And time doesn't stop. We're different. I'm different. Things that were once tight were not so tight anymore. And, you know, we all change. But sometimes when we get these adrenaline-infused moments of life, where we never feel so alive as when that adrenaline hits, we stop living. And Scarlett shows us, and with this Choose Love path, just very simple things. If you just wake up and have courage, gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion in action, if nothing else goes wrong, just like Admiral McRaven said, make your bed every day, and at least you've made your bed. So that's what we do. It's just those four things. So we're at time, but I want to offer, does anybody have any last words or questions or thoughts? And then we'll let Sabrina say parting words for us, and then we'll close out.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. I'm really excited to share your organization with several people that I think would utilize it. I know several teachers and military connections that I'm hoping to share this with. It's a beautiful thing that you've built from such a tragedy. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ashley. And I'm here, you know, to jump on any calls that any connect and to facilitate any connections. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And we have a thank you from Nicole as well. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming tonight. And thank you, Sabrina, for inviting Scarlett's beautiful message. Would you like to close us, Sabrina?
Sure. You guys saw in my chat down there that I brought this because I know I'm in a time of deployment, and I know that every day, especially with things that have been going on, I do focus on the really hard challenges and how my day sucks, you know? And I think being able to bring this program to you guys, and even within my life, I'm going to bring it through homeschool with my kids, will help us all to be more compassionate with each other. I know that we end up yelling at each other every day because we're stressed out, and that's not how we want to be. You don't want to be reporting only the bad things to your spouses during deployment. You want to be able to show that you can get through stuff. Like, you know, you have the courage. We are military spouses. We get through things that people can't even imagine that we've done. So I want you guys to take this message and hopefully come to, I think we're going to do a podcast and we're going to do an academy about it again. And so come to the other ones, bring your kids, get them involved with the message and spread it. I mean, like she said, the word of mouth is the best way. And I really think the military community can benefit from this. I think soldiers, I think kids, I think us as spouses. So the more that we can get it out to everybody and the more that you spread it at your communities, I think it's amazing. So thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.